Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a couple of times before, and I've really enjoyed the beers that I've had from them thus far, so curious to see how this one turns out. For this review then we will go down to Yorkshire, to a little place called Hebdon to be specific, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Vocation Brewery, who are very well respected actually. So this particular beer is called the Smash and Grab. It's a double IPA coming in at 8% ABV, and this is yet another beer that I picked up from the House of Trembling Madness down in York. I got that on their web shop. Definitely check that out actually if you're interested in some English craft beers. They've got a great selection on there, very fast delivery, and it's one of the best value web shops that you're going to find in England according to the English Beer Tuber. So I'll try to remember to put their link in the video description below. But yeah, definitely nice to return to Vocation Brewery once again. This is going to be the fourth review involving these guys on the channel. The first beer I reviewed was the Love and Hate, which was a beautiful IPA available in quite a few supermarkets throughout England and of course here in Scotland as well. Then I had the collaboration that they did with Magic Rock, if I remember rightly, the West Coast IPA, and the latest beer that I reviewed from these guys was the Imperial Kirsch. That was the big Imperial Stout, which was very, very nice, I have to say. So nice to return to these guys for another IPA. Fingers crossed it's as good as the Love and Hate that I had before, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So let's see how we get on then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Vocation Brewery before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite a lot at the moment because I am enjoying a little bit of time at home in the motherland of Scotland, and the English beers are very easily accessible at the moment, and that's never a bad thing. English beer scene is thriving, as I've told you many a time before. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Vocation Brewery then, on to my brewery notes. So Vocation Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are located in a little place called Hebdon Bridge in Yorkshire, which you'll find about halfway between Manchester and Leeds. So the brewery was founded back in April of 2015 by John Hickling. He'd worked in IT within the banking sector for a number of years, and he homebrewed just as a bit of a hobby. But he grew tired of working in the whole corporate environment and decided that he wanted to run a brewery for a living. So he went to train at Brew Lab in Sunderland, which is quite a common route actually for craft brewers. They've got a really good programme there from what I understand. But he also worked for a period at Jarrow Brewery. Later on, he bought the equipment from Jarrow and then founded Blue Monkey Brewery in Ilkeston with his uncle back in 2008. And they successfully grew this brewery over the following years. But they sold Blue Monkey in 2007, and they founded Vocation because he felt that, he really just needed a new project. But the new brewery opened in Hebdon Bridge in Yorkshire of 2015. And they started off with a 15-barrel brew plant, and they've grown the fermentation capacity over the last few years. They opened their first tap room in Hebdon Bridge in 2018, and then they opened another tap room in Leeds the following year in 2019. And like I say, they've just continued to build their reputation over those last few years. As of January 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 110 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and the ones that I've had from them so far, I've very, very much enjoyed. The Love and Hate, the Imperial Kirsch, and I really forget the name of what the of that collaboration that I had with Magic Rock. But yeah, Love and Hate is a lovely beer, probably one of the best supermarket IPAs that you're going to come across at the moment actually. It's a very, very good one, that. So if you get the chance to try that, I highly recommend that you check it out. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Vocation Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So I'll just let you have a little brief look at the artwork before we open this one up. As you can see, this is the typical artwork that you'll see on a number of the Vocation core range beers, and as I say, this is just one. I just thought I wanted to try another IPA from these guys, and having been impressed with the Love and Hate, I thought, you know, let's have a look at this one, let's have a look at their double IPA. That was the main motivation behind getting this one. But like I said, 8% ABV. It tells you on the side here, Smash and Grab is an explosive hot bomb of juicy goodness, crammed full of fruity, tropical and citrusy flavours from only the freshest, tastiest hops. This big hitting double IPA takes taste to the next level, with smooth malty depths to match its huge hoppy highs. The finish is smooth, sharp and moreish. So yeah, really curious to see what this has in store for us. You can see they've got the Japanese text on here, so I'm wondering if some of my beer shops that I go to in Japan will actually have some of these beers next time. That's quite cool actually, that they're sending their beers over there. And it's also got the Swedish pant on it as well as the Norwegian one, which is pretty cool. So yeah, quite interesting for sure, quite interesting. I do like the little thing that they've got up here, Hebdon Bridge, and it also says on the side, hop forward flavour. Not sure how well that's going to show up. But yeah, 440ml can this one. I think I paid like £4.50 or something like that for this beer. So that will be, yeah, about €4.50, maybe $5.50, something like that. Swedish kroner, that'll be, yeah, roughly about, you know, 50 Swedish kroner, somewhere in that kind of region. But yeah, nice looking can this one, as we always get from Vocation. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting then. The Smash and Grab 8% double IPA. I'm not even sure exactly what kind of double IPA this one's going to be, but I'm sure we'll figure it out when we get it into the glass. So let's go for it. Certainly looks a wee bit more West Coasty. Yeah, this could be quite interesting actually. Quite an active carbonation, I have to say, but here we go. Yeah, not any sediment. Oh, it actually looks a little bit more hazy now that we've got it in. There we go, tiny little bit. Maybe that this one had sedimented in the fridge a little bit, but yeah, certainly looks the part. There we go. So yes, as you can see, this beer is poured. It looks as if it's a little bit more kind of naturally hazy, actually, come to think of it. There's a lot of little tiny bits of sediment floating around in this one, so I don't know if perhaps this beer had been in the can for a little bit before I actually got it from the House of Trembling Madness. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, there are actually quite a few little bits of sediment floating around in this one. So in honesty, it's a bit hard to tell whether this one would have been a New England or whether it was meant to be more of a kind of West Coasty type IPA. But as you can see, it's poured a lovely kind of bright golden yellow colour, a little bit like a kind of mango juice level, but it does look as if it might have been leaning a little bit more towards the amber side of things. So yeah, kind of a mix between, you know, a very kind of bright rich yellow and a more kind of rich amber colour. But you can see this beer poured with about a 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, cream coloured head on this one. It's not perfect white in my opinion, but there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, but I mean overall it does look pretty damn nice, I have to say. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is, an IPA. So it's got a little bit of that kind of West Coast natural haze going on, but at the same time there's a little bit of that more kind of New England sort of thing. So it says on the side here, this one has just malted barley and oats in it, so potentially it could be either, because I think sometimes they use a little bit of oat in the West Coast IPAs, but it's not as common as it is obviously with the New Englands. So yeah, not sure exactly what to make of this one just based on the appearance. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how it gone. But as a modern IPA, there's nothing too surprising about this one. It's just about exactly what kind of IPA this beer could be. But yeah, let's take a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Oh, that does smell nice actually. And there's something very, very familiar about the hops in this. I wouldn't be surprised if that's a wee bit of like, you know, mosaic. I'm pretty sure there's a bit of mosaic in this one, and could it be a wee bit of Victoria's Secret or something like that? It didn't say on the website exactly what hops they had, but there's a lot of nice soft tropical notes to this one, and there's also a really good little bit of that kind of juicy citrusy orange, but we'll come to the fruits a little bit later on. Let's focus on the malty side of the beer first, because that's just usually what we always do. But yeah, on the malty side of things, it comes across very nicely. It's got, it definitely There's a good bit of white bready quality to this beer. You can smell that just forming the backbone of the beer, a soft sort of white bready quality. That's definitely there. You've got a nice kind of oaty smoothness as well, which I really like. There's a lovely oaty character to this beer for sure. Yeah, the oatiness coming out of this beer, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah. Yeah, the oatiness in this beer really just gives it a little bit more depth, but there's also a bit of sweetness in there. It's that kind of butter candy, Werther's Original sort of thing. Could there be a little bit of, like caramel in here or something like that? Or it's got a good little bit of sweetness to it. That's, like I say, it comes across as a bit of a Werther's Original sort of thing. There's maybe a little bit of a McVitie's kind of digestive type quality to the beer, or maybe a straight up kind of sweet caramel. There is a wee bit of there's a real brown sugary kind of sweetness in the malt base here. But yeah, underneath that, of course, you get a big, smooth, oaty character. It almost gives the impression, if you take the aroma in quite deeply, it almost gives the impression of having just a little bit of wheat to it. It just has a little bit of a bitey, kind of wheaty quality to it. So I do like that. I do appreciate that about this beer, I have to say, absolutely. But yeah, the aroma coming out of this one, the aroma that comes out of this beer is very, very nice, I have to say. So thumbs up to thumbs up to Vocation Brewery for this. The aroma is absolutely lovely. The malty side just goes together really, really well. So let's focus on the hoppy side then. For me, the green component is very big and very floral. Yeah, I don't know if I would describe it as piney. I don't think I would describe it as piney. There's a teeny little bit of earthiness in there, which makes me wonder about mosaic. And there's a good orangey character as well, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, there's a nice big floral aromatic sort of thing in there. Maybe a little touch spicy, but a very bright floral aromaticity in my mind. Yeah, so lovely kind of bright floral aromaticity. Little touch of earthiness, like I say. Some nice big, some nice just deep floral aromatic notes in there, as I said, and then you've got a little bit of zesty grassiness on the kind of front of the nose there. It's got a little bit of that kind of lemony quality. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee bit of Centennial or something in this one, because it just has a little bit of that kind of zesty lemony edge to it, which is nice. Although in fairness, it might just be a little bit too juicy for that. But yeah, so yeah, I do wonder, Centennial, I could be convinced that there's a bit of Centennial in here. But then I think a nice juicy mosaic for me, and then the tropical hop's a little bit hard to place. I mean, could it be a little bit of Galaxy? But it seems not quite pungent enough to be Galaxy. Could it be a Victoria's Secret or something? Or maybe, yeah. There's a lot of tropical hops it could be. And what you're getting out of this on the tropical side of things, for me, there's a little bit of passion fruit to it, but it's a very juicy and very, very kind of ripe mango quality. There are a few softer things in there, your typical apricots. There's definitely a little bit of that, but then there's a big oily tangerine orangey note to this beer, which is very, very nice. You guys know that I love the kind of orangey leaning IPAs, and this one really kind of leans towards that, which is very, very nice. But yeah, a little bit of a kind of lemony, zesty, grassy kind of note on the front of the palate, or the front of the nose, I should say. I've not tasted the thing yet, but yeah. The fruity side of this beer is absolutely lovely, very juicy, slightly oily, but just very, very inviting in my mind. So this beer, aroma wise, is just great all round. I really, really like this. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you get stuck into this one. But we're going to taste this beer now. So this one is the Smash and Grab, a double IPA from Vocation Brewery in Hebdon Bridge in Yorkshire, down in England. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers. I'm going to say that's more of a West Coaster, actually, yeah. It has got more of a kind of West Coasty booziness and sweetness to it, actually, which is interesting. But in fairness, the oats do come across as a little bit New England. I'll say that straight away on first impressions. You can see, I think you can see the sort of sedimenty stuff floating around in this. You can see the oats there. So maybe this beer normally would come across as a little bit more maybe it would normally come across as a little bit more New Englandy, but it still tastes very, very nice, I have to say. So thumbs up to Vocation Brewery. I do wonder if maybe my fridge has been a little bit too cold or something, but I put the temperature up to 6 degrees, so wouldn't think so. The beer's been sitting out a little bit before the video, so it should be sitting about 8 or so just now. But yeah, that's another solid beer from Vocation. I'm not surprised, because they've got a reputation for a reason, so absolutely not surprised with how this one kind of turns out, if you like. But it's beautifully done. It really is just very, very nicely done. So thumbs up to Vocation for this beer. Yeah, where to start with this one then? So straight away with this beer, you can feel that nice white bready quality just blanketing the middle of your tongue there. That forms the baseline of the beer. You can feel that right in the middle of your palate. As you go towards the back third of your tongue, you can feel in that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, there is a wee touch of dryness there. Could there be a wee tiny touch of like a Pilsner malt or something in this one? A Carapils maybe? I could be convinced of that just because of the wee bit of dryness that it has in that border region, and that's quite a common thing actually in a lot of IPAs. And a lot of, well, I guess, I don't know if it was so common in the more west coastal ones, but yeah, it was quite a popular thing for a while to put just a little touch of Pilsner malt in these beers. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer is just really, really nicely done. As well, it's good. The malty side, just everything. This is one of these beers where everything just kind of fits together very nicely. I really wonder what's caused the kind of sediment in this, because the beer does taste as if it's still in very good condition. It's odd, but yeah. If you go into that back third of your palate, then you can feel there is just a little bit of a slightly thicker white bready quality there, but not by much. This beer doesn't have wheat in it, so you're not going to get quite as big a thickness on the back third of your palate as you might otherwise. But yeah, there is just a wee bit of a kind of smooth bready quality in there. Which is quite nice actually, so that definitely has my approval. You can feel that the beer is just slightly thicker on that back third of your palate. If you go towards the very back of your tongue, you might just get a little bit of a kind of grainy quality out of the beer. But yeah, it's very nicely done for sure. But yeah, on top of that, sort of, did you say, sort of smooth white bready thing. If you move further forward from that very back part of the tongue, you can feel it's just nice and smooth going forward. As you reach that kind of border region of the tongue, it just kind of, the thickness just drops away a little bit, but you do get a wee touch of that dryness there. But as soon as you move into that middle third of your palate, you can feel the sort of base of the beer. It's just a little bit kind of underneath. It is a little bit thinner almost. It's just a little bit thinner, but it's still quite smooth. You can feel the oaty qualities in there as well. You can feel just the oats just kind of a little bit further forward, and then in the very centre of your palate there's definitely a big kind of boozy, brown sugary quality coming out of the beer, and that's the alcohol, of course. It's the alcohol that gives you a bit of these kind of brown sugary sort of things, along with what I suspect is a little bit of a kind of sweetening malt in there. Usually when it comes to the colour of these beers, you can tell if there's been some kind of malt, kind of brown sugary based malt added to it. And this one for me, I do wonder, is there a wee touch of Carapils in this one, or a kind of straight up caramel? Crystal or American Turo would be the other one. I think Crystal is quite common to use over in Europe these days, but probably not the American Turos. But yeah, there's definitely a nice kind of sweet, big boozy caramel in the centre of your palate there, and as you move further out from it, it does become a little bit more biscuity and McVitie's digestive like, particularly as you reach the kind of edge of the kind of edges of the palate there. But yeah, soft kind of almost pale malty white bready base. On top of that you get the more kind of oaty note, and then in the very centre there's a big boozy caramel, and then a little bit more kind of biscuity as you go further out toward the edges of your palate there. So that's definitely a nice point to make about this beer for sure. Yeah, the malty side of this beer is done very nicely. It does strike me as being quite west coasty in a lot of ways, just the way the booziness comes out, the brown sugars and the kind of biscuity notes, but it does have a wee bit of the New England sort of smoothness underneath. But I think it's the booziness and the strength of the brown sugars that makes me say more west coasty. So yeah, but it's a lovely beer regardless of what type of IPA it is. It's a lovely, lovely beer, this one. So thumbs up to Vocation once again, solidly executed. But yeah, that's the malty side of things then, and very nicely done. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate there's definitely a little touch of earthiness there, and again that makes me think there's mosaic in this beer. As you move further forward it's a little touch, it does have a wee little bit of a kind of herbal quality to it, and then again as you yeah, and then as I say, as you move further forward from that, it does just become a little bit more kind of deep and floral and aromatic in that sense. Probably all the hops in this beer would be you know, higher alpha acid hops, but yeah, I think there's a good little bit. I don't know, I'm hesitant to say that whether it would be, you know, it doesn't quite strike me as being spicy enough to be Columbus. It could be, you know, there's a few different bittering hops you can use, but it doesn't strike me as quite spicy enough to be Columbus. Maybe it could be a little bit of Chinook or something, because the beer, it does develop just a little bit of dankness the further you go into the aftertaste, but the green component of the beer is pretty nice. There is a fair wee bit of bitterness to this one, which again makes me think it leans towards the West Coast side of the spectrum. But yeah, round the front curve of the palate, the beer is definitely a little bit lighter and more grassy, but you do get a tiny wee bit of kind of, you can feel a little bit of an almost danky quality underneath that as well. But yeah, the flavour of this beer I think is really nicely executed for sure. So yeah, I think this one is solidly done, but let's focus on the fruity side of the beer now. So as I always say, on that front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So for me with this one, if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you definitely have a little bit more of a, there's a wee touch of a kind of more passion fruity note there, but as you move further forward from that, it definitely becomes more of a kind of oily, mango-y type quality there. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee bit of Simcoe or Citra in this as well. This could well just be a Citra Simcoe mosaic beer, to be honest with you, because there's something very familiar about it. But yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, definitely a little bit of a stronger passion fruit. That then kind of evolves to be a little bit more mango-like, but it's still got the passion fruity element to it. You might get one or two little undertones of, you know, like dried apricots and, you know, stuff like this. There's a little bit more complexity to that tropical fruit. But then as you reach the front half of that, the more oily half of that front third of your palate, then you start to get the more orangey kind of qualities out of this one. Absolutely. So yeah, and there is just a wee touch of a kind of lemony edge to the beer as well. Like there is just a wee, as you reach the very kind of front edge, you do get a little bit more kind of zestiness out of the beer. There could be a wee bit of Centennial in here, but I'm not overly convinced by that. But yeah, nice on the front half of that front third of your tongue. For me, it's quite an oily, tangerine kind of note. So I think mosaic in this one, the earthiness to me in the back corners of the palate would suggest mosaic, to be honest, as well. So yeah, that's another point to make about this beer. It's got a good balance between the tropical fruits and the kind of citrusy fruits, if that makes sense. But it's quite an oily, fruity character that you get with this one. So again, that's another point for West Coast IPA, to be honest. But yeah, regardless, it's a nicely executed beer, this one. It's probably not the most kind of crazy IPA you're going to find from Vocation, but again, it's just solidly executed, as the Love and Hate was. So yeah, it gets thumbs up from me. I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this beer again. I'd love to go and visit their tap room at the brewery and you know, just film a little out and about video there at some stage. So that's something that I would love to do, actually. Absolutely. So yeah, the flavour of this beer for sure is very nice. It's just beautifully done, and that's what we've come to expect from Vocation over the years. As I say, when you go further into the aftertaste, you get a little bit more of the oaty smoothness sitting in there. Some of the sweet kind of caramelly brown sugars comes out as well, and the oily fruity notes are very nice as well. It's just, the aftertaste of this beer is just very well done once again. But yeah, I think that sums up the flavour of this beer. As I say, I don't think this is the craziest IPA you're going to find from Vocation, but it's just solidly executed, and these days, you know, you can't ask for much more than that. Absolutely. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, let's look at that to round off this review. So yeah, for me, the mouthfeel of this beer, I would say that it's kind of top end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied. The carbonation is quite smooth, and this is quite an oily beer, in honesty with you. It does, and that's another point that I would say that makes me think it's more West Coasty. So it's maybe it's fair to say this beer is kind of 80% West Coast, maybe about 20% New England. So yeah, for me it's quite an oily IPA, this one for sure. When it's 8% as well, you do want a little bit of oiliness in there, I think, to bring out the alcohol flavours a wee bit more. But yeah, big oily double IPA, this one for me, but I think that suits it. In terms of the IBUs then, what are we going to say? Yeah, in terms of IBUs, I would say this beer, I think it must be about, it's hard to say, it must be like 50 or 60, something like that. There's a little bit more bitterness to this one. Yeah, there is a wee bit more bitterness to this beer, but it's not mad the more. It must be, yeah, about 50 IBUs, something like that. And you do get a little bit more of the bitterness, the kind of floral aromaticity just building in this one, the further into the aftertaste you go. So that's a nice aspect of this one to consider. So yeah, about 50 IBUs I would think. Malt base, like I say, it's got a nice kind of smoothness in it underneath, but then you've got a good sweet sort of caramel kind of thing that comes out of it as well. It has got a nice little bit of a boozy quality to it as well, which it works very well. Again, this is one of these beers just where everything kind of fits together really nicely, but then you've got a big oily but still slightly juicy fruity character that comes out of this one too. So really nicely executed beer from Vocation. Again, this is one of their core range beers as far as I'm led to understand, and it just works. It really does just work very, very well in my opinion. So yeah, impressed once again with Vocation. So I need to try, I think the next time I come to Scotland, I'll see about doing an order from the brewery and getting a few different things to review from these guys, try a few different styles and things, because I've had, this is the first one I've had that's maybe a little bit more difficult to get from these guys. I had to order this from House of Trembling Madness, but it is a core range beer, so maybe I need to do a direct brewery order and get some of the more quirky ones next time. But yeah, all 4 of the beers I've had involving this brewery so far have been pretty damn solid, so it kind of goes to show they've earned their reputation, absolutely. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one then. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Vocation Brewery. We will no doubt return to these guys at some point fairly soon, but in the meantime, make sure you try some of their beers. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. The smash and grab, a double IPA coming in at 8% ABV, maybe about 80% West Coast for me, 20% New England, but regardless, really nicely executed, and that's what we've come to expect from Vocation Brewery. Thanks again for watching, catch you guys in the next one. Check out this brewery and this beer if you can. Slàinte, skål, cheers.